Welcome back to another thrilling episode of Ask Zack. Today, I am talking about a question that I got asked recently by someone else in the industry. And it is, how do I choose where to film cars? Now, this is separate from the question of how do I choose what cars to travel for, if that makes sense. This is strictly talking about when I get handed the keys of the car, I set up my equipment and I start filming. How do I decide where to go? And how do I decide where to get footage like this? So that's the topic of the tape. So let's start off with the very beginning. I meet an owner, we talk about the car for a little bit. They hand me the keys and I get to work. The driving portion always starts off with, honestly, the lowest traffic areas I can find. Now, this isn't always the case, or if in special occasions, if I'm driving a sporty car, I will try to find a good back road, twisty road, what have you. But if I'm driving a 2006 Honda Accord, I want the lowest traffic areas I could possibly get, especially for a more normal car like that, which is a big chunk of what I do. I will, honestly, if I'm in the owner's neighborhood, I'll just drive around the owner's neighborhood doing 15, 20 miles an hour while I'm talking about the car. I try to get the car up to speed at least once, kind of feel it, understand it and things like that. But when driving someone else's car, I am at the forefront of the liability. I'm taking someone's several $1,000 vehicle into my hands, and I don't want anything to happen to it. So the lowest traffic areas I can do, the best. If I am on main roads, I'll try to do a loop of like all right turns. So I'm never like sitting in an intersection. I don't have to cross over traffic, things like that, that would just raise the opportunity for something to happen to the car. So try to keep it to all right turns if I can, or if I'm in a neighborhood, I'll go left and right, it doesn't matter. But the driving portion, I try to keep it as safe as I can, because that's the biggest thing at the end of the day. But once I'm done talking about the car, I'm ready to get the exterior and interior shots. And again, there's two categories that these areas will fall into. The first of which is proximity to the owner. I don't want to have someone's car for more than an hour and a half because I don't need to. And so normally I will find something within a 15-minute drive of the owner's house, because it usually takes me about 15 minutes to talk about the car. So I'll talk about it on the way to the spot, do the exterior interior shots at the spot, and then drive it back. I normally do the POV drive on the way back to the owner's house or wherever we had met up. So proximity is a big thing. Again, I don't want to drive this. I don't want to use more gas than I need to. I don't want to put more risk, in. But the second thing is something neutral and something wide open, which can be very tricky. The best thing, forest preserves. During the week, church parking lots. On the weekends, school parking lots. During the summer, school parking lots help out, but then during the winter, community pool parking lots or /fall after the pool is closed. Business parks on weekends sometimes. But basically, if I could build my perfect, review location, it would basically just be a forest preserve. The main reason for that is it's going to have a really neutral background. Take a look at this thumbnail that I took for this Tesla Model S today versus this Mercury Monterey that I took yesterday. You could see that the trees in the background aren't very busy. It's just kind of white noise, essentially. It's a nice calm background, so I could put some text over it. I'll darken it up a little bit, put some text over it, and the emphasis is still on the car. Switching back to the Model S thumbnail picture, I'm gonna have to edit this quite a bit because there's a lot going on, a lot of different colors, a lot of different shapes in the background. Unfortunately, this was all that was close to the owner. I couldn't really find a better spot, so it's gonna be some heavy editing, but you wanna try to avoid a really busy background because you wanna draw all of the attention to the car. Now, in a perfect world, I would have a studio with, white walls and put all the focus on the car. And I'll try to offset, like if I'm filming a dark car, like this Ford Ranger, I tried to get the brick in the background. The brick was a little bit lighter to bring a little bit more color into the thumbnail. When it's a black car and when it's like a white car, I'll try to find a darker background. Or if it's a red car, forest green colored backgrounds. If it's a green car, you're going to want to try to avoid foresty backgrounds. Now, it's not always an option, and it could really be helped out with like coloring and lighting and things like that. But those are just some of the things that I try to think about. But mainly the biggest thing is going to be proximity, bar none. Very, very important to be close to the owner. And then B, have that nice neutral background to add some type of, or I guess some distinction between the background and the car. Other little things that I would mention, if it's a sunny day, I actually don't like reviewing on sunny days because you can only shoot the car from one direction. So then you have to get in and move it around. It's not annoying to, oh my God, I have to, do a 180 in the car so I could film the other side. But the backgrounds tend to be the same. So again, bringing back to the Tesla Model S that I filmed today, you could see in both of these shots, the car is facing the same way. So it's kind of disorienting to see in the video because you're like, your brain just kind of has to think for a second. And that's usually not a good thing. So honestly, filming in overcast, because it really mellows out the shadows, you could film it from all different directions and there's not going to be this harsh light either way, has always been great. But it's hard to get an overcast day that's not a rainy day, and filming in the rain is terrible. So it's like 3 days out of the year I get like my perfect ideal filming conditions. But what can you do? The other thing would be when I do film the interiors, I try to put the interior in the shade, again, to sort of even out the shadows. There's a lot of different shapes going on in the interiors, so you don't want harsh shadows or harsh lines or highlighting one part and not highlighting the other. During the summer, again, at forest preserves, I'll park under a tree and do all the interior shots like that. Like today, I didn't have that opportunity, so I just flipped the car and put the butt of the car exactly to the sun to try to shield as much of it from the dashboard and stuff like that. Sometimes you got to move it around. It's really interesting because in the wintertime, it's harder because the sun is lower in the sky, so it can like go through the rear window a lot more, where in the summer, where it's a lot higher overhead, as long as you're relatively pointed away from the sun, the whole interior is going to be in the shadow. I'll close up the sunroof if that's an issue, things like that. So there's a lot of thought that goes into it. It's not at the forefront of my head because I've been doing it for so long that I'm just like, all right, find the shade, do this, point the car into the sun, point the car away from the sun, things like that. But yeah, that's some of the stuff that I think about when trying to film a car. So if you have any questions about locations, how to find locations, where to go, I've only been kicked out of, a handful of locations, and every single time it's, hey, what are you doing here? Oh, I'm just taking some pictures of my car. Well, you can't do that here. Okay, thank you. Get in the car and go. I'm trying to think. It hasn't happened in a long, long time because parks are free and open, and yeah, it hasn't happened in a while. So if you have any questions, let me know. But until next time, good night, everyone.